Welcome to the Living Medicine Podcast, where we talk about ethical medical use of psychedelic psychotherapy, teaching skills, examining the issues, and interviewing interesting people. Now let's start today's show.
All right. Hi, everybody. I am really excited to be here with Licia Sky, and I will introduce her for a second, but as you all know, in a minute. But this is the Living Medicine Podcast, and I'm Dr. Sandy Newis of the Living Medicine Institute, which sponsors this podcast. Living Medicine Institute is a place where we provide resources and training and content for clinical and medical professionals that are interested in psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, specifically focusing on the use of ketamine and working within a trauma-focused container. So I'm excited to have Licia Sky here. And Licia, will say more about the personal kind of connection that I have, but she is a somatic educator, bodyworker, artist, and musician. She guides transformative experiences incorporating dynamic exercises, music, movement, vocalizing, enhanced listening, and touch to build safe and transformative inner and interpersonal connection. She's also the co-founder and global ambassador of the Trauma Research Foundation. So thank you so much for being here, Licia.
For having
I wanted
me.
to say a little bit about how I know Licia. So I had the privilege of attending Dharma K, which is part of Phil Wolfson's group, and she was one of the facilitators. And I very immediately, I'll just speak to you now, recognized you as one of the most gifted facilitators that I'd ever been in the presence of. And for those of you who don't know, I have a whole background in experiential education and outdoor-based experiences, and I've been in the presence of lots of amazing facilitators. So your gift of facilitation and connecting to the body, along with a real active curiosity, is something that's just really drawn me to you. So I appreciate you being here so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. That's a beautiful introduction. and wow, really beautiful introduction. I don't think of myself as loftily as you do.
Well, that's probably one of the reasons that I'm drawn to you, because you're also just a really genuine, open-hearted person in my experience. So, and I am just privileged to know you. So yeah. So, so having said that, with me knowing you as one of the most gifted facilitators I've had the presence of experiencing, like, what do you think your secret is? Okay. And I'm saying that from the perspective of the people who are the primary listeners to this are clinical and medical professionals who are interested in doing psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. So from that perspective, these are people who want to learn and want to do this work really well. Like, what do you think your secret is?
I think I am sitting very deeply and authentically in my practice of paying attention, and there's no agenda. It's one of the most vulnerable things to do. One of the most vulnerable things that I do is to sit in front of a group of participants and know that I'm going to start paying attention to myself as a way of inviting them to pay attention to themselves. But I never know what's going to happen. I mean, I can say, oh, I'm going to pay attention to sense of balance or hearing or orientation, or we're going to pay attention to our breathing. But I never know exactly what's going to happen from moment to moment. And I like that I don't have an agenda per se. I like that things will come up for me, and I feel like the most important thing to do is be authentic and to listen honestly and convey my experience as honestly as possible as a way of helping people to discover what they're experiencing authentically in the moment.
Well, and it's interesting because I've heard you say a version of that before, and lots of people who've come on here, that's a kind of a core question I ask people, like what do you think the essence of your work is? And what you said was just really a beautiful articulation. Like it's like, be in the present moment, get out of your own way and tune to your own internal landscape, tune into your internal experience. Because lots of people have said some, good facilitators or good therapists have to have done their own work. And I think that really articulates that really well. So I appreciate that.
But I'm doing my work in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not hiding that I'm doing my work. This is my
Mhm.
work. My practice is my work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, this is what I know I need to be doing, whether I'm in front of an audience or working one-on-one with
Hmm.
someone or just being in my own life.
Hmm. Hmm.
And being in my own life and doing it is probably much, much harder than doing it in front of an audience or doing it one-on-one with other people. But it's still, there's a level of opening up and being seen
Yeah.
that terrifies most people.
Yeah.
And they would never go there by themselves. And they
Hmm.
never want anybody to see them go there.
Yeah.
So to show them that it's possible to go there and be present with whatever comes up, I hope that gives people a way in that they haven't had before.
Mm. I love that. So you always come back to the body, right? Your belief in embodiment and all of your background. And, so what draws you to that and how does that relate to what you're saying? Like the ability to be fully in the moment inherently, to me, is inherently a body-based practice. Like, we can't really be fully in the moment if we're all in the mind. We have to be, connected in mind, body, spirit to be there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I started as a body worker. I
Mm-hmm.
started as a licensed massage therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a similar thing to the practice of paying attention to yourself. You cannot really eh, do body work well if you're following a script and you say, okay, now I'm going to work on the back. Now I'm going to work on the
Yeah.
arms. Now I'm going to work on the legs. La, 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 la.
Yeah.
There's a rote way of doing things, but there's another way of being fully attuned and responsive.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to do that is to be deeply connected with your body as a listening instrument.
Mm-hmm.
If you cannot do that, you cannot hear what's coming through your hands. You
Mm,
cannot notice the signals that your hands are telling you about what's going on in the person's shoulder that you're with, or foot,
mm,
or heart. Or it's such a whole being, whole person thing.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I didn't come into it knowing anything at all about trauma in an intellectual way.
Yeah.
I came into it thinking about service, thinking about how to help the person that I was with. I encountered a lot of trauma in my bodywork practice over decades,
Mm-hmm.
and still didn't have that word, even though people were having flashbacks and memories and deep pain emerging, emotional pain emerging through their bodywork process.
Sure.
And then I met Bessel and learned the neuroscience of trauma. And
Mm-hmm.
at this point, even though I don't have a PhD or anything like that, I know it pretty well.
Well, I would imagine. You're like, live it, you teach it, you're in.
Yeah, inside and out. And the other day, Bessel and I were on an interview together, and he said, "You should have left the neuroscience questions to me, but you did a good job."
You're like, yeah, but I can just humanize it, you know? I mean, when I've seen the two of you together, like, I mean, you were at Psychedelic Science and I was there. And,
Yeah.
you know, like, I mean, it's such a good compliment, like that, um, you know, he's kind of does the science and the research, and then you bring it to life through facilitation, because that's ultimately, right? We need that for clinical practice.
Right.
Be
I
able to bridge
do.
the gap. And what we're trying to do is heal suffering. So,
An experiential illustration of the neuroscience. That's why I started teaching with Bess,
yeah.
was so that there would be some embodied translation of what does that mean? What
Mm,
he's talking about, oh, it's in your brain, but he's also talking about you should have a relationship with your body.
yeah.
And I'm pretty good at helping people start to get into their bodies, deepen their relationship with their bodies. Or
Yeah.
for some of the most traumatized people, it's beginning to think it might be possible. You know,
Yeah.
it's a whole spectrum. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, and I think in terms of, you know, science has kind of allowed us to validate vibes and kind of the energetic connection to ourselves and others. So that neuroscience gives us a break, or gives us a bridge,
Yeah.
where now we have like the justification, you know, like we have the scientific justification for doing that work. And
More and more, there's still more science that needs to come out about it.
yeah,
There's so much we don't understand.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because, you know, one of the things that's really over time has evolved for me with my own trauma work is it's really about state, not content.
Right.
You know, the content being the thoughts, the content being the memories, but the content activates the state, and then the state fully, you know, kind of like morphs the memories and the thoughts in certain directions, which ultimately leads us to the body.
That's interesting because I kind of do it the other way around. I
Oh,
say
interesting.
the
Uh-huh.
body sensations
Mm-hmm.
get interpreted by the mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
Get
think that
get
might be what
get
I'm saying, but go ahead and
get
say
put
and
into
finish what you're
story.
saying.
So
Yeah.
so there are people who are mind,
Yeah.
and and I'll stop and go, wow, you just said something really powerful.
Uh-huh.
Stop right there and tell me how your body feels after having said that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And they'll check in and they'll go, yeah, and then they'll try and jump right back into story again.
for sure.
And then I say, wait, come back to your body. I know
Yeah.
there's a story that your mind wants to tell about your body, but let's stay with your body.
Yeah.
Because the story has the potential to shift if you pay attention to your body and notice your body changing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
yeah.
love that. Yeah, and one of the so from that perspective, one of the one I wanted to ask you if you have any, and again, I've heard you answer this before that it's intuitive. So, and yet there are some skills there that I think,
Mhm, mhm.
and so I want to just acknowledge that. But one of the things I know is the question is like, if people want to get more expert, even if they are, you know, somatically expert already, but if they want to get more expert or begin to learn from this perspective, you know, what are your thoughts about what people need to do? And for example, one of the things I've noticed about you is you really slow down when you start talking about the body. Like your voice slows, there's a longer pause between the words. You're really drawing somebody in to that exploration and giving the space for it. So that's kind of what I mean. Like any thoughts about what people can do to become more skilled
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that work?
I um oh that's it's a big question because
Sure, of course.
I think slowness is a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
And and when people don't feel safe,
Mm,
they usually speed up.
yeah.
And so your temporal awareness in a conversation is an important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably more important than anything else you do.
Mm. Huh.
Um, yeah, because then when you slow down, you can hear how people respond.
Yeah.
You can hear the energy of your own voice.
Mm.
You can hear the emotional impact of what you're saying or what the person is saying to you in a very, very different way. And the scarier the material is that a person is working on, the faster and tighter their body becomes, the faster and tighter their words come out, the higher and tighter their voice is, the more strain gets relayed that you can actually hear in the person's voice. You can feel in your own body when somebody else's throat gets constricted. We mirror the sounds that we hear as well as the physical things that we see.
Yeah.
So, so slowing down, I probably used to teach a little bit faster when I started. And I got feedback that some people felt like I was rushing them.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And some people would get mad at me and say, I want to do it my way. And of course I want them to do it their way.
Yeah.
And I found that, if I'm noticing for myself, I can feel the weight of my bum in the chair. I can feel my feet on the floor. I can track my breathing, and I can do that at a pretty flowing way at a good clip. But if I'm really, really inviting people, there's a deliciousness to landing in each of those places and just hanging out there.
That's so, yeah. I love what you just said about the deliciousness. And that kind of leads me to, I was kind of just like tracking. You said when you have that feeling, if somebody has a tightness in your throat, you're likely to also have it. And how do we listen to that? And one of the things that you said when we talked kind of in preparation of this was we need to be safely curious.
Right, right.
And I think curiosity is a really critical part of expanding our consciousness and deepening our relationships with ourselves and others. And to me, that's kind of that. Like we are safely curious. And I'm just curious, how do we do that? How do we be safely curious with that high level of attunement to ourself and the other person?
I think slow curiosity is one of the safest ways to observe things that you're not used to observing. And I will you might have heard this before, but I was in a car accident once in the middle of winter in the Northeast. Our car drove over black ice and did one of those 360 things on the highway with other cars around us.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the back seat, and I think this was like in the 70s before people got really uptight about seatbelts and things. And I just remember the two people in the front and me kind of being in the back. I remember how everything in that very dangerous situation slowed down and how I could see the expressions on people's faces, and I could see things moving and see the cars going around us and how still the inside of the car was and how everything was moving outside of the car. And there is a way that sitting where I was in the middle of that spinning thing in this moment of stillness in this crazy quick thing that was happening. It didn't feel like I had to react. It didn't even feel like I had to respond.
Yeah.
It felt like I could just be there and watch it. And that was such an amazing experience. And I think a lot of times trauma is something that's happening so fast or so impactful, there's no effective way to react or respond. And to have the capacity to revisit something like that in a healing way without getting activated or overwhelmed by it requires that kind of slowness and stillness to be able to meet it with that. And so when I'm sinking into practice in front of a group or sinking into practice with a person who might be really, really upset and you know, the thing is how much of that stillness, how much of that presence, how much of that witnessing with awareness and calmness can I bring as a practice to what I'm meeting? And that that does more for building a safe container than anything else I know how to do.
I mean, it makes perfect sense because even in this moment when you're doing it, it's mesmerizing. But I mean that in the, I don't mean that in as just, I mean, yes, it's complimentary, but I'm speaking to my own process and just as a teaching, because you're slowing the space between the words while you're also deeply attuning to me, which is leading me to be more deeply attuned to you and to myself. And so I'm just kind of like offering that as like an experiential lens to this process. Cause it's also interesting because what you're saying also just leads me to wonder about, psychedelics and ketamine specifically. It slows things down.
It can. And the thing that happens when things slow down is that they expand. So there's a moment where you think, oh, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
You slow down and you go, oh, I'm breathing. Oh, I have physical sensations of balance and weight. Oh, I can sense the temperature of my body and my clothing. The space around you, the details that suddenly come into focus that you were filtering out, you stop filtering. And that's one of the things that psychedelics do is they help remove those habitual filters, those cultured filters, those things that we've learned to do to keep doing and not feeling. There's a way that when you take a psychedelic and those filters start to be removed or softened at least, more comes into focus. The richness of your interior comes into focus that you may have been really, really practiced at ignoring. And the ideas and thoughts that are embodied, that aren't just in your mind, also emerge. I find psychedelics to be incredibly somatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my experience as well. And, a lot of people don't really share that view. And yet that on a lived experience level, that's where it starts with me. And I do understand that that's not everybody's process or practice, but, kind of bringing people into that possibility is really, in my view, of a central importance to the process. And then I also am noticing that you're also kind of, that leads us to this relational context that we talked about. What is the role of you as, therapist, facilitator, guide, whatever that we want to call that in that process? Like, how does the relationship with you as the person who's holding the space for the client come into that? How do those things relate?
Yeah. I see myself first as a witness that I have to really, really be able to see the person fully without judgment. Just be open-minded and curious about what's the energy here. Who is this person? What are the emotional feelings that I sense in this person? And usually there's people don't come to these things lightly. They come with a desire, with a longing for something, or a curiosity for something. And I guess if you're going to a concert, it might be thrill seeking or something. But if you're coming to psychedelics therapeutically, it means that you have a commitment to trying something that could be very, very big and deep, much bigger and deeper than somebody who's coming in to just talk.
Yeah.
And so I feel a little like Virgil in Dante's Inferno. I'm gonna be your guide. I'm gonna walk with you through the layers of heaven and hell, and so there's a confidence there that
Mm,
we know how to go through those steps and come out the other side,
mhm,
um, which many people who've had deep, deep trauma experience themselves as so broken, they don't really believe that they can get better.
mm,
And they're doing things always with one foot in and one foot out.
mm,
And so I'm the person with both feet in and really going for it in a way that I hope helps them to have confidence. And it's kind of like having a midwife.
yeah. Oh, I
You
love
might
that.
start going into labor with one foot in and one foot out, but there's a point in time where you just have to open up and let the birth happen.
Right?
And I had two home births, so I know this experience and this metaphor firsthand because the midwives that I had were so confident about my body and my process, that
Mm-hmm.
birth was a normal thing. And they were encouraging and sympathetic and not afraid of my pain, not afraid of my tears, not afraid of my shouting, not afraid of any of it. They let all
Not
of
afraid
it
of the process.
be normal. And
Yeah.
yet they did not have to experience the physical pain that I was experiencing in order to help me to hold it
Mm. Yeah.
and help me to meet it.
Yeah. I mean, I love that metaphor.
Yeah.
Because, one of the things that I, invite people to do is to step into a calm and soft yet strong authority.
Mm.
Like, I've got you,
Mm.
and I have confidence that you can heal,
Yeah.
and I have experience in doing this, and I can hold it with you.
Yeah. But I don't I've been working with people with unspeakable horrific trauma
Mm-hmm.
for years now. And there's some people in psychedelics who think, "Oh yeah, this psychedelic trip is going to fix you."
Oh,
And
yeah.
I can't go there. I can't
Mm-hmm.
I rarely use the word healing,
Mm-hmm.
because that implies that it's a one and done in some way, that you're all better. You've got a little scar now, but everything works fine. And for me, all of this is a lifelong process. This is a continuum of emerging and evolving and integrating into who you authentically are. So I can say I'm with you. I am
Mm-hmm.
completely with you. And I'm confident that you're going to make it through this journey and we will integrate and process everything that you encounter
Yeah.
to
I
be
love that.
complete with that experience. And that's different than saying we're done now.
Oh,
And
sure.
sometimes that happens, but you know, in the ketamine world, those infusion clinics where you can get 6 in 6 weeks or 6 in 3 weeks, and they don't do any integration. They just assume that the drug is doing everything. And I've just seen the dangers of that. Maybe for a lot of people that can still be effective, but for the people that I work with, we want to really hold and meet together what they encounter in a journey.
Well, and that's a beautiful segue too, because I share that view. This one and done thing is of concern.
Yeah.
I do think people are having good effects in the ketamine clinic, and many people do have life-changing effects with single journeys with plant medicines and others. However, many do not. So it's
Right.
not for me, it's not that we don't always have to, I'm not saying you're doing this, but like I am not saying like those things are bad. I'm saying that as a field, we need to be mindful of the fact that there is a whole other way of doing it, which is skilled and intentional preparation, support during the medicine, and skillful and intentional integration. And that it's not just about the medicine, that it's the whole journey. And so that's just a segue into kind of, talking about that. Like, what do you think are the critical components of that? Like, how do we do good preparation? How do we do good integration? And of course, again, we can spend, you know, days and, multiple courses and all that on this. I understand that. But just, from your perspective, like you've really emphasized the importance of integration. For me, the preparation is not just preparing for the medicine, it's the building of the relationship, it's the building of the container, it's the creation of whatever active curiosity needs to happen to build that safety so that I also, you as the client, feel like I get you and we can have that attunement.
Right, right. For me, the psychedelic is an amplification of a practice that I do, whether you're using medicine or not. So for me, every session that I'm working with somebody in an embodied way is an expansive point of awareness that guides you in. So everything that I do in a regular session without medicine is something that I want to do with medicine. And because when you open up, if you've been really, really hurt and you open up to things that you've been avoiding, it's gonna be intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people have enough coping mechanisms that they can open up in an immense way to something intense and then go off by themselves and integrate by themselves. I think that's probably possible for some people.
Right.
But I also know that if you don't have a sense of what you might encounter, that can be really problematic if you get shocked by what you encounter. I've had people very vividly and intensely remember being raped as young children, or harmed and abused in unspeakable ways as very young children. Developmental trauma is the lifelong impact of that is immense.
Right.
And it is a lifelong impact. It shapes who you become. It shapes how you see the world, how you trust things or don't trust things, how you trust yourself or don't trust yourself. It impacts your capacity for intimacy, for community, for family, for so many things. And there are a lot of people who live their lives feeling very isolated and not belonging, not worthy, who put on the best face they can and feel as little as they can. And they can look very normal. They can look very high functioning.
Right.
And when they experience those things honestly, unvarnished, vulnerably, it's not something you want to leave them alone with. It's something that you want to help them explore with an anchor.
Yeah.
With some guidance and safety that says, I'm here with you. And maybe this is the first time they ever really experience, I'm here with you.
Well, that's so important because that kind of links in that relational piece. And again, I mean, one of the things I tracked, I am more in ketamine world than anywhere else for a lot of reasons, but is again, there are some significant splits. Like we're going to just sit with somebody while they go through their journey, or it's better if people go through their journey by themselves. And my take on that is somebody feeling me safely in their bubble, feeling me attuned to them energetically and like I'm with them and they're held and they are not alone. in this may or may not have anything to do with the words that are spoken. That's only
No,
one
it's
piece
not the
of the
words.
equation.
Yeah.
So once again, what I'm hearing again is this piece about the relational part. Because if people can't feel and they're so buttoned up and they're so well defended because they've had to learn to be, they also can't connect in the
Right.
same way.
Right. And so for me, the work of the journey starts well before you take any medicine.
Mm.
And I get a lot of people coming to me these days who've had big psychedelic experiences earlier in their life, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, who felt like they went in as one person and they came out as another person. They came out feeling like they'd lost something of themselves or came out understanding some dark thing about themselves and thought, this is who I am, this is all I am. And whatever they experienced in their bad trip never got processed to the place where they could integrate it, understand it, through it. And so they come out saying, oh, this is who I really am.
Right.
And they're stuck there. And
Yeah.
it doesn't take much to work through that and process it and integrate it, but people can stay there for years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, to me, that's a grief-giving tragedy that people can feel so lost and so afraid that
So lost, so afraid. And they slip through the cracks, right? Because
they really
if
do.
you're a person who had a really difficult experience, like where you said, where you went in and you came out feeling like something different and you're stuck there, and all this data and hype is like, I went and everything's different and my life is all better and my depression's cured and my trauma's cured. I mean, I think that
Right,
can be
right.
really activating of shame. Like, well,
Oh,
it's not
absolutely,
me. I
absolutely.
obviously did something wrong.
Right. Or I see this proves that I'm unfixable.
Exactly.
And I have a number of incidences like that I want to share just as a cautionary thing. I was teaching a workshop and talking about how important integration is. And a woman came up to me during the break and she said, thank you for saying that.
Mm.
Daughter was killed in a car accident, and my husband was depressed for years and nothing worked. He tried electroshock treatment, he tried every antidepressant possible. And then finally, he tried ketamine, and everybody said that was going to fix him. And he had one session and he didn't feel much. And so they upped the dose and they kept upping the dose. And after the last session, he killed himself.
Oof.
I know, I know. And nobody did any integration with him. Nobody did any processing with him. They just said, we're going to hook you up. You're going to feel better.
I
I'm
mean,
sure
that's
they had
great
nice seats,
advice.
nice music,
Sure they did.
and but I've heard too many stories of people saying, wow, well, I sat for an hour and I was still feeling woozy, but they told me it was safe to go home.
Yeah.
And that to me is not safe holding.
It's not. And the lack of integration with that, like to me, when I go on to a ketamine clinic that does not have a cap component at all, or, I mean, because again, I just call, we can refer to therapists. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And, having some training as a therapist or guide is also of critical importance. But like saying that you're going to cure PTSD and giving somebody the idea that a lifetime history of suffering on the levels of developmental and complex trauma are going to be fixed is really like there's got to be so many things like that. It just breaks
Well,
my heart. Like, well, I've tried everything and you tell me this is going to be fixed and it's not fixed. And in fact, I might even be worse. And now I'm ashamed and we spent this money, so I'm done. And maybe they kill themselves or maybe they just disappear, into their living room, right
yeah,
in front of their
yeah. I mean,
television.
and this is not to say that there aren't countless people who are helped by this,
Right. Agreed.
but I think there needs to be more of a safety net there needs to be more follow through. There needs to be much more holding. And I don't mean just physically holding. I don't mean being intrusive, but if you're in the room at all, you are part of the journey, no matter what you do.
Right. You're in the bubble.
You are in the bubble, and they are in the bubble with you. And it's a thing. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so that kind of leads me to, let's spend the last chunk of time here just talking about integration. Like, and we're obviously highlighting the importance of integration here. You and I, share that. Like, it's of critical importance to have some integration. And even if that means somebody from the clinic calls and checks on somebody, like at a very basic level. But in terms of the therapeutic aspect of the psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, how can we do really good integration? Like, do you have a kind of a structure? And, I know the structure is not always you don't always like to like,
Well,
but I bet you do. Like, how you do it.
I do.
And
I
how
would
do we
say
build a
that.
bridge with the session?
Okay. So for me, integration starts before you take any medicine. Integration starts with you beginning to have a grounded connection with your own body and understanding how what's happening in your body colors your perceptions of your experience, and a sense of what you may or may not encounter inside. That if you don't do that as part of your intention setting and preparation, I don't really think that you have the most effective integration you can have. And the other thing is that, there's this culture about zooming off, zooming high. And if you're not in the highest state, you're not in it. For me, integration happens as you're coming down. It's really, really important to not go, okay, it's done. There's no more medicine. I'm fine. And there are plenty of times when people, especially if they're new with psychedelics, they'll do that. They'll go, okay, I'm back. I'm back, as if there aren't, as if there's a half-life to the medicine that's still coursing through your body and changing things. So for me, savoring is a very, very important part of the integration process. And by savoring, I mean being as fully in whatever you are experiencing in the moment as possible. Even as the psychedelic effects fade, there's still so much lingering in you. It's like waking from a dream. You can wake from a dream in a way that you can recall the dream. You can feel the flavor of the emotion in your body, even if you can't remember everything that happened. But if you wake up and you put on your morning face and you go, okay, look at your watch, I gotta go. I've looked at my calendar and here's my schedule, then you've lost the dream. And there's so much insight, there's so much impact right there. And so to be able to savor that, to collect and recall and recollect, that those words are very important words. They actually mean something. And they mean something in your body.
Yeah.
And so to be able to take those insights or take that grief or that pain or that joy or that light, whatever it is that you are experiencing, to not rush out of it, to stay there, even when you think, okay, now I've got to get busy. Don't get busy.
Right.
Stay slow.
Yeah.
Because so much more emerges that becomes insight when you do that. So integration starts in the journey itself.
I love that. One of a colleague of mine, Erica Cherwinski, she was one of the early podcast people. She would talk about, I encourage my clients to put themselves on a mini retreat in the time that they're working with this. And I always, suggest like give yourself a soft landing, create the next couple of days, of which when we'll do our integration session, in a way that allows you to stay in that expansion and to stay, versus like going back into this like natural contraction, like just back into the normal reality.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that, that layers in the neuroplasticity piece. Like, how can we maximize that? I love what you said about
Right. Right.
savoring, just like savoring.
Right. Right. And the time of recollection is a time of sharing. Many people go into a pretty nonverbal state when they're journeying. Um, I like when people work with lower doses
Mm,
because there's a lot more insight and reflection that comes out with the journey itself.
yeah.
Mm, And so for people who have a lot of trauma, it might not be the fastest way to go through. You won't get everything fixed in one session, but there it's so much more thorough for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's thorough almost on a cellular level. Something happens where people have permission to understand themselves in a deeper and different way. Um, but I take very extensive notes during a journey. I used to do them all by hand. Now I, with permission, use an AI recorder that transcribes and gives a summary, and it's amazing.
Awesome. You have to tell me which one you use because I'm interested in that because I'm still taking the very extensive notes and
Yeah, yeah. And with some people, we do a video recording because that's what they want.
yeah.
But that documentation for review afterwards is also really, really important.
Right.
And I encourage journaling, art making, and I like having a bunch of sessions after a journey because so much unfolds, so much can occur to you in your dreams. I I I think most of the people that I work with journey like once every 4 or 5 or 6 months.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
it's not there's so much work to be done between each journeying session.
Yeah.
It's all journey.
Well, I do it both ways. I
Yeah.
do. I like to start out with 3 to 6 sessions and rather,
Mm,
and in order to help the nervous system feel safe. I mean, that's
mm,
the most
mm,
simple way to do it is in order to help the nervous system stay, feel safe in
mm.
kind of a more softer, open, expanded
Yeah.
state, and then kind of build to that. So I want to, I'm aware of the time. And so I want to ask you just, one little, couple questions all lumped together. Like, what have we missed? What would you love to share? And, where would you like to see the field kind of expand into?
Oh, what have we missed? Oh, we'll have to come back and have another conversation,
Yeah,
maybe with
happy to.
Gita. Yeah, about dosing
Oh, totally.
and because I more and more and more am a proponent of those low dose experiences
And
because
when you
they
say
don't.
low dose, let me just clarify because this is another thing I'm tracking in the field. We have a very different experience, very different definition of what low dose means. Like, and so when you say low dose, like can you give a range?
So I've learned from Gita, um, 10 IM,
Mm,
followed by 20 IM,
okay.
30
Yeah,
IM. I mean,
yeah,
that's pretty low.
that's
I
pretty
know
low.
that most people start at 40 or 50 or 60 and want to go higher, as if you couldn't get anything that deep from a low dose.
Yeah.
And yet, in the training sessions that we've done, people can go very, very far out with 20 IM and last
Okay.
a long time, and and then have a higher dose experience that isn't anywhere near as profound.
Agreed. I'm
Um,
100% with you. I mean, I changed my whole nervous system, in my opinion, after the effects of Hurricane Helene by doing one low dose at Phil Wolfson's recommendation. It
yeah, yeah,
just brought me a sense of, like things were still really hard, but it was okay, you know,
yeah.
like,
So the power of what's revealed and the power of what can be harvested to be integrated. Um, it- there's so much more to talk about there. And different protocols for different people at different times is really important. But That I think we did a pretty good job, really.
We did do, right. I mean, what I'm hearing there is like, let's keep fine tuning it. It's not
Yeah.
one size fits all. It's let's keep developing kind of a perspective on that there's a wide range to do this
Yeah. Yeah.
and the importance of the integration. And once again, you at your just brilliance and it's the simplicity. Like you have a, the like really simplifying like this piece about the importance of the body and how that links to attunement is so you say that so beautifully. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time. And, for those listening again, you can find this on Spotify, on Apple, all the different podcast platforms. It's Living Medicine. And you can also find it on the Living Medicine Institute website. So thank you so, so much.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thanks for listening to Living Medicine. We'll see you again next time. Be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.